Hello everyone. Hello Periscope. Hope everyone's doing well. It's good to see you again. Good to talk to you. I'm on the phone. I'm on Skype with my good mate, voice of reason, Adam Jay. How are you, sir?
Good, thanks. The shorts are on. The
Shorts are on.
Yeah.
It's pretty hot. It's been pretty hot the last couple of days, but especially today, this afternoon. Like, we were just talking before we jumped on the phone about, I probably had a few too many last night, so, one beer in and I've just got the sweats big time. It's like a torrent coming out of my pores. So
That's it. You're detoxing, I believe the term is.
Detoxing, yeah. I've got a big... You should see the size of this canteen. I don't know if you can see it. I'll hold it up to the camera there. That is a water bottle. It's like 2.5 litre canteen I've got here. This is something you take with you when you're trying to storm Damascus. Because it gets pretty hot in the desert. So. I've got to flush some water through the liver, old mate.
Yeah, that's it. Well, the liver, it doesn't bounce back like it used to. It must be said.
No. It used to be pretty robust, the old liver. I mean, we've got those good, Prussian genes, don't we? That just like the liver keeps on keeping on,
and the liver can find form. Like I find that, I just put a good few weeks of drinking under my belt. I'm not talking every night. I'm talking, just on the weekends, and then I'm really ready to attack a few bottles here now. Like
you don't really drink through the week, do you?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I just find that I'm not that sharp. I need to be sharp at work, and
Yeah, well, that's fair enough. You're dealing with electricity and climbing through roofs and stuff, so you got to be pretty on for that. Anyway, you've been wanting to jump on and have a little chat for a while, so it's good that we can find a time tonight, get together, have a chat. By the way, thanks everyone for joining us. I saw Tamara come in. Tamara, you're an absolute star. I want to give a little tip of the hat to Tamara. She's always there. Like, I always know it's the scope's happening and it's on when I see Tamara's name in the chat box. I'm like, yep, we are happening here because Tamara's here. So, where else would we be? So
I enjoyed your scope yesterday. What was it? Last night,
yeah.
12-hour marathon.
12-hour marathon, yeah.
That's a bit of stamina there, though.
Although, to be fair, like, the last hour I kind of, outsourced to videos, so... There was less talk.
Get the heavy drinking in.
That's it, yeah. I kind of took the headphones off and played a couple of clips for the last hour or so, just to see me out. It was getting a bit messy, getting a bit slurry.
I was a bit busy last night, so I couldn't really jump on, but I did jump on and get a bit of the chat, and I believe I was in when there was discussion about capitalism.
Yeah, you were having a good conversation with our resident NatSoc, Ludwig Feuerbach. I like Ludwig's work. He doesn't mind throwing them in, like throwing the hand grenades over the back fence. So people, have their own opinions. They don't like him. Other people don't like him, but I don't mind. He's okay to me. So,
nothing wrong with a bit of a Panzerfaust.
Yeah, but we're gonna party like it's 1939, comrade.
Yeah, that's it. Bit of Blitzkrieg or Warsaw. And one thing that needs to be really hammered down, in my opinion, is this whole notion of, that no one's saying capitalism is a guarantee of success, or capitalism is that red carpet. You just roll it out, hey, capitalism.
Yeah. I
mean, we're all going to have a beachfront property and, drink wines on a yacht in the harbour.
Yeah.
I mean, that was never the point of capitalism. It's nothing. It was never guaranteed that way. And I mean, that's something. And I believe in your scope, I wrote that. It's the granddaddy of all strawmans.
Yeah.
Is that there's poverty in capitalism, or there's income inequality in capitalism. It's like well, no one's saying anything different.
Well, that's capitalism working, isn't it? Like the fact that there's rich people and poor people and all sorts in between. To me, that's like, yep, that's what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, it's a meritocracy. You got to go out and get it.
Yep. And of course, when you say it's a meritocracy, it applies. You get sort of allocated wealth according to all sorts of factors, like how hard you work or the ideas that you come up with or whatever. But then obviously, at that point, a communist will always throw in like, oh yeah, but a lot of rich people just inherit it. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's kind of the point too, because if you work hard in your life and you pass it on to your children, that's that's kind of what we want, don't we? Because that promotes, wealth through generations. So
yeah, there's no greater incentive to work hard, especially in I guess you could say in the second half of your life, than to have something to leave for your children. I mean, exactly. Milton Friedman, who you played clips of, when he speaks of this quite a bit,
Yep.
I mean, if you might get to 50 or 60 and you might say, you might have a lot of money, and you might say, well, how much money do I need to make it to the end of my life? Like if there was, for example, 100% death tax or whatever like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't work as hard, would you?
No,
and then productivity suffers, and then the economy basically crashes. Well, it doesn't run as well as it should.
Well, it's all stick and no carrot. I just want to make comment. Tamara said she passed out at like 5 a.m. her time yesterday, and when she woke up, her phone was dead. So, like, Tamara, you're an absolute trooper. You were in there probably the longest out of it. Sorry, I missed that last comment. Rags to riches. Yeah, like, this. I know we're jumping the gun a bit here, but one of the things I was impressed about with Trump's tax plan, just from a pure politic standpoint, ads, like, not necessarily whether it's good or bad or not, but I think just like from a strategic standpoint, the getting rid of death duties is something that will appeal to Democrats as well, because like my point is, you can't tell me that there aren't Democrat business owners who like are happy for their children to have to take out a mortgage in order to pay the death tax, like when they get their business bequeathed to them. So that's something that's going to have broad ranging appeal, that aspect of Trump's tax policy.
Well, there's a lot of details. I believe we were waiting for the details of the tax plan, or has that come out? Maybe it came out yesterday.
Yeah, there's been a lot coming out like day to day. It's really hard to keep track actually of like, the actual policy aspects of what's happening now in American politics is like really hard to keep up with, because you've got to sift through JFK and Uranium Gate and Pissgate.
Oh yeah, there's all that noise there, isn't there?
Absolutely.
But apparently one point is that they're not going to touch 401ks. Which is interesting. I mean, and Trump likes to be, I guess you could call it being reasonable, but he tries not to take everything. Like, he likes to leave something there to say, hey, I could have went further. I could have done something really, really radical, but nah, I'm just going to leave that. I'm not going to touch that because that's going to hurt my popularity. So
yeah, true. Let me see if I can bring up Trump's tax stuff. What are we looking for specifically? Can you give me a specific?
Well, there's the tax brackets. I mean, I guess that's the big thing. They're going to break it down. They're going to get rid of a lot of the tax brackets and just have 3 brackets, which simplifies the tax code. Which is
that's brilliant. That's brilliant as far as I'm concerned. That should be that should be par for the course. See, I don't know about you, but I'm a fan of flat tax. I think 10 or 20%. They're in that region somewhere. Same for everyone. If you earn 50k a year or 500,000k a year, you should pay 10% or 20% tax. I prefer a flat tax to any progressive tax plan, says Tamara. I think isn't it? It's probably more a libertarian standpoint. I think, like a flat tax.
Yeah. Well, libertarian standpoint, it's no tax, but
you know what I mean though. Like that's the acceptable.
A preference. Lesser of evils, but flat tax has got its advantages. I guess one of the things that the problems with a progressive tax system is that people keep their wages below a certain bracket so they don't get taxed as much.
Sure.
And I mean, they could be earning another 10 or 20 or something like that, but they get, particularly, I'm not 100% sure of how the US system works, but here in Australia that people do that.
Well, I've got one up on the screen now. I don't know if you can see it from thebalance.com. Trump's tax plan, how it would affect you. On September 27, 2017, the Trump administration released its tax reform plan. I don't know what's going on here with the links. Would cut income tax rates, lowering the top rate to 35%, doubles the standard deduction, but eliminates personal exemptions. The plan, so if it eliminates personal exemptions, that's like if you bought a pair of boots for work kind of thing, you can't write that off now. Is that what they're saying?
Yeah.
So, like, I don't really, I'm not a fan of, because I see so much rorting going on when people write things off for tax anyway. So I think it should just be income, and if everyone's paying less tax, then you won't have to have so many write-offs anyway. You'll have more money in your pocket. So I'm a big fan of just like simplifying. I'm a real minimalist when it comes to policy. So
yeah, well, that's a big argument against all these exemptions that this. I mean, it takes time, and I mean it slows everything down and it increases the bureaucracy.
Yep.
If you just say there's no exemptions, or there's a very minimal, level of exemptions, then this simplifies everything and improves the efficiency of the tax office.
Sure. Samuel Steele said fair tax, not progressive tax. Yeah. I think ideally we'd all like to see no tax. What about I don't know. What are your thoughts on, say, like a banking transaction tax? So, like 1% on every bank transaction. What do you think about that? Just like a question without notice kind of thing.
Well, I think that the only transaction that I would, so 1% of the actual bank transaction that you do. Yeah,
or even a fraction of 1%, because there's so many bank there's millions of bank transactions every day. So if you take like a fraction of 1% of each of them, and just funnel it straight into the coffers kind of thing.
Well, I would probably take all my money out of the bank. And pay cash.
Yeah, but the problem is you need the bank to do business now. You can't avoid using the banks.
Yeah, but I would say that a lot of people might. It's very important that that banks have the money. They need to have you need to have the money in the bank for a financial, for the financial system to work for obvious reasons. I mean, loans, this and that. Now, I would say that a lot of people would take money away from banks. I don't know. A tax is a tax, Damien. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
There's no good way. There's no right way to tax, is there? There's like less wrong. There's no right way, but there's just only like less wrong ways to do it.
Yeah, and all of it, and all the rest of it, how you explain it is a little bit, spin. You know what I mean? I mean, I guess another way of, another interesting aspect of this is, the tax cuts need to be paid for in the States.
Sure.
By savings. Now,
well, there's a lot of talk. Sorry to interrupt, but there's a lot of talk. A lot of the Liberals now are jumping on saying, well, there might be some merit to this too, I'm not sure, but they're saying, well, Conservatives have been bitching about the deficit for the last 20 years, and Trump's just going to blow the deficit up in order to give everyone tax cuts. What do you think of that?
Yeah, well, that's what I was really getting at here, and that, that Trump is not eager to cut the budget, well, not to a very, not to a degree to pay for the tax cuts, but the way he is presenting it. And some conservatives have presented it as, in Trump world, I guess you could say, is that this is a form of stimulus. That instead of the government spending shitloads of money, on big infrastructure projects or just handing out money through welfare or whatever, basically what happened here in Australia during the GFC, or what happened in the United States during the GFC, that instead we're just going to cut taxes, and that's a stimulus. So, yeah, I know the CBO has been saying that, this is going to put pressure on the deficit, but that was always the Trump way. Let's deregulate, let's cut taxes. And
what he's done with regulation is just like fucking rolled gold, as far as I'm concerned.
Let's get the economy roaring, and that's the way we're going to attack the deficit.
Grow out of it.
Or another way to put it is that once the economy is roaring, that's when you can, cut back the spending. It's a better, it's a position of strength where you can, just cut back on the spending then.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see for sure. Is it a stimulus? I don't know if it's a kind of stimulus. The problem is like what we've all known from the get-go. If you're taking a purely conservative view, like obviously Trump never was a conservative. He's not a conservative. He's a populist. So he's not going to take a big axe to the welfare state. He's probably going to trim it around the edges in order to appease his supporters. But he's not the kind of. I mean, I think you and I are probably in the same boat here when it comes to government spending. Like I'm all for like savage cuts.
Yeah, like right now, like yesterday.
Yeah, like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like 10 years ago. And I'm not talking like a little $1 billion here and there around the edges. I mean like savage, painful cuts in order to get us back to somewhere where, you know, we can build again. Because, like, the hurt's going to come one way or another. This is what people have to fucking get through their heads. The hurt is going to come as a result of the debt at some point. So you can either do it now and self-inflict it where you can have some kind of control over it and it's not going to be as bad, or you can just keep kicking the can down the road and let someone else deal with it, and they're not going to be equipped to deal with it, and it's going to be 10 times worse. Like, these are the only two options. There is no soft landing here, you know? So
yeah, but this goes back to something that, you know, sometimes we butt heads over, and that is the most important thing right now is winning.
Yep.
Now, what have we learned probably in the last few years now is that any talk of austerity, any talk of, you know, even symbolic cuts to the budget is, you know, the voters don't like it.
Sure.
You know, they're on board with, you know, let's have a talk about immigration, have a talk about cultural Marxism, let's have a talk, you know, they're quite open to these, to an adjustment on these, you know, on these views. But when it comes to welfare and entitlement spending and middle class welfare, they are just like, nah, that's it. We'll, you know.
Yeah, because it becomes like, hang on, why are you taking my money? Take his money instead. Don't take my money, you know.
Yeah.
So,
you know, so that's, and, you know, we've also talked about that. Ultimately, people, I think, are going to learn the very, 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 very hard way.
Sure.
And it's just going to crash. And, you know, it's, just to make a sporting analogy here, you know, from football, from soccer, I mean, when you get the confidence from the board that you're doing a good job, you know, you've lost a run of games, everyone's saying, yeah, he's a good manager, he's a good, you know, good coach. And then suddenly the next day, quit. And that's how quickly it's going to turn. One day, you know, everyone's going to be skipping down the street all happy, you know, throwing $50 bills in the air. And then it's all just gonna crash.
Yeah.
And it could be in a few weeks. We don't know. But yeah, that's how I think ultimately it's going to end. Like that, people will finally realize. They'll have to realize they'll have no choice.
Yeah.
Because, you know, all the banks are going to come and they're going to start knocking on the door. I mean, where's my money? I mean, that's.
What do you make
to that point?
What do you make of the argument then that Trump understands this, and what he's doing is effectively like trying to soften the blow, so to speak, for the average American? Like, do you buy into that argument at all? Like,
I don't think he's looking that much for, you know, that's way ahead. That I think that's, you know, a little bit above him. I think he's thinking day to day. No, I don't. You know, that's, you know, Trump's good. He certainly sees a lot of things that a lot of establishment politicians don't see, but that's just like giving him a little bit too much cred. Without, you know, I don't think that argument has any limbs, to be honest.
Okay. Tamara said people have to learn how to stop relying on government. Government's not our fairy godmother. Yeah, this has been the argument from, you know, our side of the fence since fucking Adam was a boy. You know, this is the fundamental chasm, isn't it, in politics around the Western world? It's like you either believe in self-reliance or you don't. And you believe instead in, like, big government coming in and wrapping you up in bubble wrap and, you know, providing everything for you. It's like, this is what I say adds to people often is, you know, we can't all work for the government, right? You have to have people out there producing wealth. And if you don't have people out there producing wealth and creating tax that you can take from them to give to the people who don't produce wealth, then you're up shit creek with no paddle.
No, it's just basic arithmetic, really.
Yeah, I've heard
when it comes down to it.
I've heard Dr. Ron Paul. We're both a big fan of Paul. You know, I've heard him talking about it recently, and he'll say, "Yeah, Trump's doing the right things," but he goes, "It's just too little, too late." You know.
Yeah, I think that's a great argument because Trump made a lot of promises, but he's been dealt a very bad hand here.
Sure.
I mean, it's not, you know, this is nothing that he had control over till 10 months ago or whenever it was.
Yep.
I mean, when it even comes to the foreign policy challenges that he's facing, I mean, North Korea, Syria, Russia to a certain degree. I mean, these were, he's never been involved in government.
Hurricanes, mass shootings.
That's it. Suddenly, you know, he's got to have an answer for everything.
Yeah, like, think about it. He's had, in his 10 months, he's had 3 hurricanes, 2 mass shootings, North Korea lobbing missiles all over the place. He's had the Syria thing. He's had, you know, a hostile Senate, even though his party is in control of the Senate. He's had constant media battering from pillar to post, non-stop, 24 hours a day, unlike any other president in history. He's had this whole Russia thing with people investigating him. His attorney general is cut off at the knees because he recused himself. Like, and he's still, like, finding ways to get small victories along the way. Like, the guy's a Superman.
Yeah, he's done, you know, if you just step back, I think he's done pretty well considering it. And I think he's changed, you know, the last few months in particular. I mean, he's realised that he can't be warring on every front all the time. And that I think he's doing a better job at picking his moments. Like, you know, something that I talked about, you know, saving your ammo. Don't just start shooting into the trees, you know.
Yeah, the scattergun approach, you know.
Yeah, that's it, you know, like, you don't have unlimited ammo. You're not, you know, you don't have unlimited credibility in your bank. So I think, you know, especially this last month and in particular these last 2 weeks has been a great, you know, it's been a bit of a turnaround for Trump. You know, I think he was in trouble. I wouldn't say he was in big trouble, but he was certainly, you know, just trying to get some oxygen, and he couldn't get it. And these last 2 weeks have been pretty good.
Comment from Blazer Boy in the chat adds, Obama dealt with all of this too, but with much more grace. Okay, that's fine. He's not, you know, he's not a fucking ballroom dancer, but you know, he had his own problems, but he was given a pretty sweet ride from the media at the same time. Like, he didn't have the same level of scrutiny, so.
Absolutely, and
he was the darling. He was the media darling. So.
Yeah, and you know, and that's one of the problems I think that people. How did Trump happen? I mean, people were done with gracious, soaring rhetoric. Yeah. I mean, you know, Barack Obama said a lot of nice things, and he made everyone feel very good, but it was all bullshit in the end. Yep. And I mean, a closer examination, you know, I mean. In some respects, Barack Obama was involved in, you know, gathering up dirt against Donald Trump, you know, against a presidential candidate that he did not like.
Yeah, I mean, remember, didn't he change the law, like, just before he went out of office? Do you remember it was news at the time? How was it BS? Well, hope and change. How much has it improved, Blazer Boy? If you don't think the whole hope and change, I'm going to unite the country stuff was BS, then where the fuck are you living, mate? You know, look at the place. It's not. He didn't improve much, did he? You know, people aren't happier now. The race divisions are wider than they've ever been. So, you know, hope and change.
Yeah, well, you know, let's quickly go through it. I mean, Gitmo. I mean, to be honest, I was in favour of Barack Obama closing Gitmo. I think there were a lot of problems with Gitmo.
Yeah.
And he came in and said, "Oh well, you know, I'm going to close Gitmo."
He pulled out of Iraq and then had to put the troops back in.
That's right. He took the troops out of Iraq, and then, you know, he said that, you know, we're not going to meddle, you know, and that, you know, he supported the Arab Spring. I mean, Egypt, how did that turn out? He was, you know, very aggressive against Assad. How did that turn out? He basically, you know, you want to talk about Russia. I mean, how did Russia to get to such a position of strength where it, you know, feels as confident as it does now? Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton.
Yep.
I mean,
internationally, when it comes to Russia, internationally, I don't know if Americans understand this or not generally on the whole. I'm sure some do. But internationally, Obama was seen as really weak in international foreign policy. Like, Putin and European leaders used to laugh at him, because they knew his threats were empty and he was all talk and no action. So,
well, he was literally Chamberlain. I mean, I guess you could say.
Well, yeah.
So, and you know, the only thing that I would say is that Barack Obama was presented with a bad hand of his own, and that was a global financial crisis.
Sure.
And again, he made a lot of bad calls.
Yep.
He
just towed the IMF line. Well, like, we had the same thing here with Kevin Rudd, our Prime Minister at the time. They did, like, big stimulus packages and went massively into debt and stuff, and you know, everyone applauded them for it.
Yeah, exactly right.
Like, oh, that's so brave, isn't it? You know, like handing out money in a financial crisis. Oh, what a brave decision. It's like, what, really? That's not brave.
And he bailed out the automakers.
Yep.
And, you know, they came roaring back. But, hey, money was spent, public money.
Well, remember, too big to fail. Too big to fail.
Too big to fail. And
he gave the bankers taxpayer money.
And the same thing would have happened. The same thing would have happened if it was just left to the private sector. The private sector would have gobbled up, you know, these car automakers, would have broken them up into more, you know, economically sustainable, you know, profit-driven, you know, companies, and they would have come roaring back anyway. Yep. I mean, so just throwing money away, pissing it in the wind.
Well, you know, people talk about, oh, Trump's just looking after rich people. No one was more successful in Obama's America than the top 1%. Like, that's a fact. Nobody got richer in Obama's America than the top 1%. Like, the gap between rich and poor grew more in Obama's time than any other president. And, like, you know, the wealth that was created during Obama's time, what's the statistic? Like 96% of it went to the top 3% earners in the country.
Yeah, absolutely.
The kings of Wall Street. So this garbage about like, oh, you know, he cares about poor people and Trump's just looking out for the rich. It's like, you really can't go any further like than what Obama did for rich people.
No, well, you know, Barack Obama left office and he decided, you know, to go on a holiday on Richard Branson's yacht. I mean,
Richie boy.
He didn't really go back to the burbs in Chicago and relax, you know, in the hood. Yeah. I mean, this is, you know, someone that's part of the elite. I mean, and I guess the same arguments could be made against Trump.
Well, Blazerboy just said in the comments, agreed, but Trump has done nothing to change it. And I would say, yeah, not yet. He's been in there 10 months, but I mean, part of the tax thing is trying to address that, you know, because if you have more money in your pocket at the bottom of the ladder, reducing it from 7 brackets to 3, then you've got a higher chance of either keeping more money or reinvesting that money back into the economy, which then fuels someone else's economic growth, you know what I mean? So, you know.
Yeah, well, a roaring economy means that there's more jobs.
That's it.
And there's more, you know, employers, you know, hiring, which creates competition, and hopefully this raises wages, which is, you know, another important thing. You know, a problem that Trump makes, and a lot of, you know, one argument that I hate is this Dow Jones stock market thing and the records.
Yeah, I know you're not a fan. I like to just throw that at you just because it's like it's a cheeky, little win. You know, like it's a cheeky little.
It's like you're dancing on my nerves.
We're growing the credit. We're growing the stock market here. Look how we're winning, bro. But I know you hate it.
Yeah.
Well, explain. Why do you hate it?
Well, because, you know, stock market's always been growing. I mean, if we look back to the 90s, for example, I mean, where the stock market was there, I'm guessing you can have a quick look there on your laptop. Even 10 years ago, where the stock market is. You know, that's the central problem, that while the stock market is always achieving, you know, history highs, you know, historic highs on the Dow Jones, this hasn't corresponded to wage growth or greater opportunities. I mean, another way of saying it is, it's a similar thing to immigration. You know, that while a country takes in, for example, Australia or the United States takes in, you know, refugees or immigrants, the actual immigrants see an enormous spike in their, you know, in their standard of living. But for us, it's only like, you know, a 0.001% increase in the standard of living, whatever that scale even means, because I always have a problem with that scale.
Well, so, I've got the last 100 years up now. If you want to have a look on your phone there, on your display,
I can see it.
There's the growth there. I mean, it's not always growing. Obviously, you got the depression here in the 30s.
You got your 30s. Business cycle. Yep.
You know, late 70s. There. Look when Reagan took over in 82, and then it's a pretty sharp jump there from where Reagan. You know, but it's a low starting point. That's the start of Obama there. 2008. It's on the way down. So, you know,
the 90s there?
Yeah. Where do you want to go? Anywhere in particular? I mean, the 90s is just a pretty steady growth in the 90s. And, you know, Bill Clinton gets a lot of credit for, you know, he grew the stock, like same argument, right? Like, because at the time we were saying, well, you know, he can't take credit for the stock market growing. Hi, Wolf Perry. Thanks for joining us. Early morning for you guys. You know, but, you know, so the same arguments are being used now for Trump, aren't they? Talk about Bob Mueller, please. Okay, yeah. Do you want to talk about Mueller? What are you... New charges, actually breaking. Gateway Pundit had this loaded up. Mueller files first charges in Russian witch hunt. I love the Gateway Pundit. Arrests as soon as Monday.
Well, he should go. I mean...
Well, he's compromised, isn't he, Robert Mueller? Like, I'm trying to take an unbiased... Even if you take the unbiased view of it, I'm not trying to play favourites here, because if something's... Like, you know, people find this hard to believe, but if corruption is taking place, then I want it eradicated regardless of what team people are on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if there's something going on here, okay, sure, like, flesh it out.
But it's time. It's getting to a time where we have to say, okay, do you have something? If not, and that's all. That were one of the original arguments against, you know, a special prosecutor.
Yep.
That he will not stop till he finds something, and is that, you know, is that real justice? Because that's his aim.
Well, you know, like he's got a team. He's got a team, and they're going through. They're now going through like business records from 20 years ago, as if to suggest that Trump made business decisions in the early 90s, thinking that one day it would help him become president and collude with Russia. I mean, what the fuck is going on? What does that have to do with anything?
That's crazy.
So we're talking frivolous lawsuits here, as far as I'm concerned. And it's long been a tactic. I mean, come on, let's cut the bullshit. It's long been a tactic of people to just pile on frivolous lawsuits and drag you through court and cost you a lot of money as a way of getting you to stop whatever you're doing that they don't like. Trump gets a break because he's only 10 months in, but Mueller is dragging his feet. Well, it's two different things. This is a comment from Blazerboy. It's two different things, Blazerboy. Mueller's not the president. So he only has one job, Robert Mueller, and that's to investigate. So, you know, you can say, well, you know, it's wrong for people to say he's dragging his feet, but we're talking just perception in the public here. You know, like, what's he doing?
Perception in the public eye now,
it's everything,
is at a point where, you know, Mueller's cooked. I mean, the whole Russian narrative is pretty much, you know, the Russia collusion with regards to Trump is pretty much cooked.
Yeah, there's no public support for it anymore.
No, it's just, you know,
gone too far.
Following these revelations, you know, about Hillary paying an intelligence firm that has links with the Russians to find dirt on Donald Trump. I mean, the whole Democratic, you know, Trump is colluding with Russia is just absolutely just, I mean, it's broken. I mean, it doesn't work. And, you know, if anything, the heat now is on Hillary, except the problem is that, you know, Hillary's not in office. So, I mean, it's not going to be a big of a story as a Trump one.
Yeah.
For some. For me, it is.
Blazerboy says these investigations take time, and I think, yeah, that's fair enough. I don't have a problem with that. And, you know, Mueller has the support of many. Okay, I guess. I don't know if it's enough, though. I don't know if, you know, because I think we're at the stage now where people are just switching off Blazerboy. This is the point we're making. Like, in the wider public, you know, of course you're going to get some people that say, yes, you know, Russian collusion, Mueller's doing a great job, Trump collusion with Russia, blah, blah, blah. But is it going to have enough of an impact to change anything? I don't think so. I think, you know, the lines of opposition have already been drawn and they're going to be defended now no matter what. Plus
there's separation. I mean, there's clear separation. You could take down Manafort, Flynn, and basically Trump can just say, listen, hey, I was an anti-establishment candidate.
Yeah, I fired them. I took them off the team.
Exactly. I was an anti-establishment candidate, and, you know, there were a lot of anti-establishment voices around, and I hired these people because I needed all the help that I could get to get this thing off the ground. I mean, let's go back to how much of a shock this was.
Yep.
And, you know, Paul Manafort put his hand up, General Flynn put his hand up, you know, and they talked to me about, you know, the foreign policy aspect of Russia, you know, that maybe we need to do a change here, this and that. But there was no collusion between me and Russia, because that's the big fish here. What are they trying to do? They're trying to turn Manafort and Flynn
into Trump, yeah.
Yeah. They want to get to a position where they Mueller
squeal.
throws something. Yeah, Mueller throws something on the table in front of Manafort and says, "I fucking got you." And Manafort, and he's going to expect Manafort to say, "Listen, I want immunity." And then Mueller's going to say, "Well, if you want immunity,
what are you going to give me?
What are you going to give me? You always got to give something bigger than yourself." Now, the only thing bigger than Paul Manafort is Donald Trump.
Yep.
Now, he's got to have something to give. Now, that's the fucking big problem here for, the Democrats or the Never-Trumpers or whatever, whoever it may be.
Yep.
And I'm not quite sure that there is something to give.
Well, if we're talking dossiers funded by the DNC, and we're going to the point like really lowest common denominator stuff ads of trying to allege that prostitutes are pissing on him and stuff in a bed in Moscow. If they're willing to go there, that suggests to me. Well, if they're willing to go there, that suggests to me that they have very little. If that makes sense, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Well, if anything, his reputation's enhanced, but.
Well, because Eastern European hookers are like top class, aren't they? Really, let's be honest. Only the best for Donald.
She's been drinking, from the springs of Siberia for 2 weeks before she went up to his hotel room.
Pure as driven snow, my friend.
Yes. But the big story here is, I think, now Hillary, and I mean this is something that we've always known, and this comes back to norms. I think the beautiful thing that the Democrats have tried to push here is, look at Donald Trump. He's destroying standards and norms. He's breaking everything up. He's a danger to democracy. He's a danger to civil discourse. Blah 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 blah. And it's like, okay. And they of course brought up his style when it comes to the election and all this type of stuff. And it's like, there is nothing more famous than the Clinton election, the campaigning machine.
Yeah, they're savage. They're savage. Everyone knows they're savage.
Savage.
You were saying it. You were saying it at the start of the campaign, like even when Trump won the pre-selection, because I said to you from the get-go, Trump's going to win this thing, and I was pretty confident, like all the way through. Like I was pretty steadfast on that. You have to admit, like I was pretty. Yeah. I think Trump can do this. And your first port of call was, but he's got to get through Clinton. And, the Clinton campaign machine is fucking world famous for the amount of dirt that they'll throw. A good comment from Tamara, by the way. She said Manafort used to work for the Podesta Group, so he's the straight line from A to B. That's a very good, interesting point.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that, actually, that he used to work for the Podesta Group. So. Word is Jeff Sessions. Another comment adds... From Wolf Perry, word is that Jeff Sessions has already been looking into Hillary and the uranium one deal. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that. I reckon he was probably quietly working on it from day one, but not making a big scene because you don't want to... the last thing you want to do when you're investigating someone is alert them to your presence. You want them carrying on business as usual. So
yeah, you want to hold back and then you got more splash when you drop it. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. What do you make of the job that Jeff Sessions has done? He's got his critics out there, doesn't he, in the MAGA movement?
He does, but I think, that little spray that he got from Donald Trump through the media, I think has set him straight. I think,
I forgot about that. Yeah, it was just a little shot across the bow, wasn't it? As if to say, hey man, if I wanted someone to be in here who's going to recuse himself, like why would I hire you? And since then he has been a bit stronger, hasn't he, little Jeff? I tend to think Jeff Sessions' biggest problem is that he's like a kind of quiet Southern gentleman type, and he doesn't, the verbose and the big statements and stuff just isn't in his DNA. So he probably rubs Trump the wrong way because he's not forthright enough. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that does make sense, but I think that, don't confuse Southern gentleman with,
weakness,
with adherence to the position of Attorney General.
Yeah, good point there from Wolf Perry. Sorry to interrupt. He said, but the problem is now nobody's... I didn't even consider that. That's a very astute observation. He said nobody's going to be talking about Clinton now. It's all going to be about Mueller. Do you think the timing here is anything? Like, it just so happens after a week where Clinton and the Democrats have been smashed for Russian collusion, suddenly Mueller has now, like, dropped the hammer kind of thing? Like, isn't that convenient? I don't know. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. Well, they will be talking about Mueller. The CNN will be. The interesting thing about this was actually when the Clinton bombshell came, that her campaign was funding this dossier, switching on CNN.
Yeah.
And just, they had a little bit of a panel talk about it. Hey, this is no big surprise.
It's business as usual. Nothing to see here.
That's it. There's no big surprise. Oh, everyone in Washington knew.
Yep.
Oh, well, thanks for telling us. It might have been relevant 10 fucking months ago.
I jumped on the CNN website like when a couple of days after I spoke about it in the Marathon Periscope yesterday ads. I don't know if you caught that bit. And the story that was like front page of CNN.com was like, Trump gambled that nobody would care about his tax returns, and he's right. And then they put up like Google Analytics of people Googling Trump tax returns in the last 6 months. And it's like, wow, what a surprise. CNN, nobody's talking about what you think they should be talking about. Does this tell you anything? They
had a 2-hour crisis meeting, and some intern just got up. I got it.
Yeah, let's talk about tax returns.
That's it. Let's have a story about how many people looked up Donald Trump's tax returns.
It's unreal, isn't it? Yeah.
I know this guy from Google.
Yeah. Trust me, this dude from Google. I need to apologise to my dad because I yelled at him for posting political stuff on Facebook, says Facebook Rattlesnake, the Texas Rattlesnake. That's okay. You can apologise to Dad here. I'm sure he'll get the message. I'll let him know.
Yeah, talking politics with your old man's tough.
Yeah,
just in general.
Yeah, mine doesn't really talk politics at all. Like, he's just not interested in it. But he's a veteran from Nam and stuff, so he doesn't particularly like communists. but it's just, that's about as far as it gets. It doesn't really get any more in depth than that. He doesn't really want to talk about it. So fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I've just jumped on Drudge. Do you want to have a look what I've got here from Grabbian News?
Sure.
Grabbian News. Do you know Grabbian?
Grabbian
News.
Sounds like something you don't want to pick up.
Miller probes first act is the headline. Miller probes first act leaked to CNN. So they haven't learned a thing. If this is true, they haven't learned a thing. The Russia investigation into President Trump's alleged collusion with Russia. That's terrible writing. The Russia investigation into President Trump's alleged collusion with Russia. It's like, don't double up.
Are the Russians investigating it?
Yeah, exactly. It's terrible writing. Is being conducted by former FBI Director Robert Mueller, who today saw the grand jury he impaneled recommend charges. See, this is the thing with grand jury. They would have been handpicked. Democrat shills, more than likely. That's what I'm not saying, that's an outrage. I'm saying that's exactly what I would do if I was doing it. I would handpick my grand jury members and make sure that they're all on board. The other bombshell that we found out from the whole Hillary, Pissgate dossier and the uranium deal ads was that, Mueller was director of the FBI at the time this deal went down. So, 2010, right? Robert Mueller was there. There. He was getting off the plane handing like a glowing suitcase to Dmitry in Moscow. Here's your uranium, bro. Duh. Yet. Thank you. So, like to your point earlier, how much legitimacy now does this Mueller guy have, if any? It's
in the negatives. There's just none. We talk about, he might be able to nab someone, but I don't think it goes any further than that.
Like a small player on a fringe somewhere.
Yeah, and he might have he might do a Comey.
Yep.
That, strictly speaking...
I wrote a private memo that I didn't show anyone except my friend who gave it to the press.
Yeah, that's something... that something dodgy is happening. Like, how he said the Clinton thing, that he couldn't prove motive, or he couldn't prove intent, that she intentionally, received top secret emails on a private server at home. She didn't intentionally do that. She would, yeah. So
it was
an
accident.
Could do something similar you know, that kind of...
That
gives
private
both
server I
sides
built,
something
that
to-
private server I built, and all those emails that were gone, and those devices that we smashed with hammers and stuff, that was all
Yeah.
just like an accident. There was no intent there whatsoever. Like,
Yeah, I wasn't... I didn't know what a C meant stamped on the top of a document, even though I'm Secretary of State.
the hammer like that I was clutching in my enraged fist whilst I was slamming it into the laptop was purely like it had control over me. It was like a jackhammer. You know, I was just trying to hang on to it. Like, it was an accident, really. It was just I repeatedly bashed the laptop by accident 17 times until the hard drive fell out. You know, like have some mercy, please.
And all that. What was that program that they used? The bleach bit.
Yeah, and the guy going on Reddit and saying, "Hey, does anyone know how to use bleach bit? Oh, by the way, I work for Hillary Clinton. This is a complete accident. There's no intent here."
Yeah, the bleach bit was all for the all the seasons of Games of Thrones episodes that I had on there. I didn't want to get booked.
Yeah,
but by Netflix or whatever.
Yeah, because I stored all the rape scenes. You know, I just had to get rid of them.
I cut them up into a montage.
Exactly. Happy fappy.
So that's all that Mueller's going to get, and it becomes a problem for the Democrats and for the whole Democratic establishment. And we were talking about this a few days ago. That this is all a plan by the Democrats to cut off Hillary. It's time for Hillary to go.
Yeah, that's what I like. That's what I was talking about in my scope yesterday. Ads was like, to me, this signifies the point where Hillary Clinton's former allies. I mean, if you get to the stage where the Washington Post is now doing exclusives and outing you as doing the wrong thing with funding dossiers and stuff. You are now like, this is effectively like the person in the trenches next to you turning the rifle on you. You know, it's like, it's time to walk, Hillary. Like, it's time to walk the plank, babe. You are done because you're doing irreversible damage to the Democrat Party brand now. Like, you're a walking landmine. You can't be out there. So, it's time to put her out to pasture, to cleave her off from the herd. And
there's been signals lately, haven't there?
Yep.
I mean, Hillary released her book. It was kind of like a solo show. It was weird. It wasn't really supported.
Clinton's comedy tour.
Yep. Yeah, like a lot of commentators, pundits from the Democrat-leaning pundits were like kind of lukewarm about this. And Hillary, it's time to maybe just shut up a little bit. And so it's been coming, and that's kind of been the vibe for a few months. That
definitely
Hillary just needs to just sit it out now. She had her turn. She just didn't want to go, did she? Like, she just,
she wants to hang on because she's like maniacal and power hungry, and she's a narcissist and an egoist, and she thinks that she's entitled to the White House. So if she's not going to go without a fight, she'll probably take everyone down with her.
Do you reckon she's ready for another tilt?
I'm sure that she believes that she's going to run again in 2020. I've got no doubt about it. No doubt whatsoever that she believes in her head. And the sycophants that surround her are probably, helping her believe it. I've got no doubt that she's, in her mind, already plotting her run in 2020 to take the title that she deserves, that she believes she's entitled to. Comment from Tamara adds, HRC and Comey made a joke of intent and our justice system. Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Comey lost all legitimacy with that. He basically read out, I remember watching it, and he read out all the charges. Like, all the misdemeanors that Clinton did. And then at the end said, oh, by the way, we're going to let her go because, she didn't mean it. like that's a thing. Meanwhile, someone takes a photograph in a submarine to, show their buddy, and they get 10 years in prison for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Doesn't make sense.
There was no intent there either. He wasn't intending to be a super spy for the Russians, but 10 years, because he basically said, just because Hillary Clinton's getting off doesn't mean. Do you remember that weird comment? Something like, just because Hillary's getting off doesn't mean that you're going to get away with it. Just because we're making this decision doesn't mean. But I mean, it's all bullshit in the end anyway, because we found out that he'd made the decision before he even interviewed her. Remember?
Yeah. Well, there's
months
been so
before
many stories now.
Yeah.
That is just a massive blur. But, okay, so is there a standard here? I like to talk a lot about this type of stuff,
Yep.
that someone did this, someone did that. But what is the standard? I mean, should it be a crime to get dirt from a foreign government on someone? Maybe that's the play here. Could this be a trap for Trump? And maybe that's why the timing of the Mueller, big reveal that he's going to book someone. Maybe that's the end game here.
Well,
that Hillary got thrown under the bus.
Walk us through it.
Well, colluding. Has Hillary Clinton committed a crime here, Damien? I'm not talking about the server. I'm talking about that she used an intelligence service. Yeah, and she used it through a lawyer, which there is technically a degree of separation. I mean, it's not like Hillary walked into that Fusion GPS or whatever it is, and said,
they always have a degree of separation. Yeah. They're not stupid.
Yeah, they're not stupid, but it wasn't even like, it wasn't Aberdeen.
No,
it was a lawyer that,
But the lawyers are potentially going to get done for perjury because didn't they lie about it? Or that lie about their involvement? But I don't know if that was in a court setting.
That's the thing. That's why it's a lawyer. It's a client-attorney privilege. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why he's sending a lawyer, because he can't talk.
Okay.
He's protected by the law. And that's why there's been a massive to and fro about this, because apparently there was some Never Trumpers involved in this way back. And
Jeb Bush has been implicated. He's a low energy treason, low energy trader, Jeb Bush.
But I'm just back to the standard part. Is it, so what's the crime here? Is there a crime? I mean,
well, if you're using the intelligence service for your own personal political gain, then yes. Well, that's pretty clear. That's a pretty clear point.
Yeah.
There. Like, you just can't do that. That is a crime.
Well, there's a moral crime here, yeah, and then there's
that's a legit crime, a law crime. Using engaging the services of the intelligence apparatus in order for your own personal political outcome is definitely a crime.
Because you're talking about unmasking and all that type of stuff now, aren't you?
No, because the FBI was involved in procuring the sources that led to the Fusion GPS dossier thing. So, I don't know, elements within the FBI.
I heard that Fusion GPS is an independent security, whatever, think tank analysis, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And they had links with the Russians.
Okay.
Yeah. Not links, but they had, some type of ties there. And that the problem was that this was compiled by Fusion through their sources in Russia, which is an important aspect of all this, because, if you say that the Trump dossier was bullshit, then you're also saying that what the Russians fed Fusion GPS was bullshit. And then you have to ask yourself the question, well, why were they feeding him bullshit and for what purpose? But
I think the issue with the dossier, sorry to cut you off there, but I think the issue with the dossier was the fact that this Steele guy got paid to write it, and the allegation is he put more, sort of that quote-unquote salacious material in it in order to get paid more.
Yeah,
because it was worth more money.
Yeah, and how I understand it is that Fusion then passed it on to Hillary, and then somehow it found its way to the FBI and the CIA, and that's why the CIA presented it to Trump famously in, when was it, in January, a week before his inauguration, or a week after, or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and Obama.
And that's the problem, because they were, this was presented as an intelligence document, verified by, the FBI and the CIA. Like, that's where the problem is here. It's not that someone wrote a fairy tale, it's that the actual intelligence agencies accepted it as fact, or as, something worthy enough to be, to hand to the president and say, hey, this has been floating around. I mean, consider, they had, what lands on the president's desks or the president's elect's desk is filtered. I mean, very, very, to a very high degree. Like, it's not something, not every piece of gossip makes it to Donald Trump.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, now you've got Kelly in there as well, who we don't necessarily know how much he allows to filter through to Trump either. So.
yeah, apparently he's a bit more, a bit more classical in his thinking, like for the role of chief of staff.
Sure.
But but it's a huge, big problem as well for the CIA and the FBI that they let this, I guess, this absolute crap land on Donald Trump's desk, and that was given so much airtime. Let's rewind here 10 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
This was talked day after day for weeks on end. This was probably one of the reasons why especially, prosecutor was even, was started by, who was it, Rubenstein or whoever it was?
Rosenstein, yeah.
Rosenstein, yeah. So, I mean, it's a huge scandal, but it's not going to get any airtime, or not much.
What about John McCain's involvement? Because wasn't he the one that was first, passing this dossier around in Washington, saying, "Yeah, have a look at this," showing everyone who would bother to talk to him, which I assume is probably a small group. But if he's got, because he's been annoying, John McCain, but he was in it up to his eyeballs in the beginning, if you remember, with the dossier stuff.
Yeah, well, I could just see him just slamming down a ice cold beer in some swanky Washington DC pub.
Yeah, the ties loosened, the cigar smoke. Yeah.
Check this out, guys.
Guess what I've got?
Yeah, just dumps it on the table.
Yeah. Guess who's the man? Do you want to? I've got a bit. Do you know Ted Malloch? He was Trump's pick. Reportedly Trump's pick to be ambassador to the EU.
Oh.
Yeah. So he was He was formerly involved in the Davos group. He was like a globalist who turned, basically, and started writing books about how globalism... Damien, I think you're really an American by the amount of knowledge you have on American politics. No, Australian. Is Adam Australian as well? Just curious. No, Adam is Polish, but, what are you, Ads? You're Polish, but you're Australian, but you're Australian, but you're Polish.
Neither. I don't know.
See, Adam, when he goes to Poland, because he was born in Poland, right? But came out here very young. But English is his second language. Like, he thinks in Polish. So, he speaks Polish. So when he goes to Poland, people say you're an Australian, and when he's in Australia, people call him Polish. So it's very difficult. It's very difficult situation. He's an international citizen, if we can say that. So yeah, this Ted Malloch guy, former globalist Ads, he turned against the establishment, started writing books about, the evils of globalism and stuff. He was on InfoWars the other day. So I don't know if you want to check out. We'll throw in a little clip here and see what we think.
But is he the actual ambassador to the EU?
No, he's nominated for it, and apparently behind the scenes Trump wants him, because he was pretty anti-EU. Like, he's a bit of a Farage type character, wants to break up the EU. So, he's the guy, if we're keeping in tune with, the MAGA movement and stuff, and what Trump's agenda is globally, like the nationalism and stuff, then he would be your man. So we'll just play a bit of him talking about, I hope this is talking about the dossier stuff, so we'll see.
What's so revolutionary that we're open for business. He understands what America is. The American
it's a bit
system,
quiet.
The American system that
Silence.
the British Empire was scared of, all of it. They wanted monopolies. We were against monopolies. Doesn't mean we're perfect, but our idea is transcendent. When you talk about Trump being given to us by God, you see all these other populists being elected everywhere as well. This really is an amazing time to be alive. What is it about Trump that scares them so much? When you talk about God's hand and providence, undoubtedly that's what we're seeing. Can you speak to that?
Well, Trump is turning over the whole world order. He's turning over this globalist mentality. He's turning over the globalist institutions. He's putting America first again.
Yeah, it's not about the dossier, because I heard him talking about the dossier on British TV, so I think we'll just leave that one there. I heard him talking about the dossier on British TV, and I thought his point was pretty poignant, but I can't seem to find that particular clip, Ad, so I think we'll just leave it there. Right?
Cool.
Yeah. The Catalonia situation, somebody asked, are we going to talk about it? Yeah, we can definitely talk about Catalonia.
Absolutely.
Where do you want to start? I mean, I do actually have a clip here preloaded, ready to go. If you just a short, 1.5 minutes.
Slam it.
From the BBC. We'll just throw it on. Catalonia, because the Catalans, the Spanish government has now, they're moving in, and they're declaring that Catalonia is illegal actions and they're arresting people, and it's all happening in Spain. So just quickly throw this on, about 90 seconds.
I have dissolved the Catalonian parliament, and on 21st December there will be autonomic elections for that autonomic community. Yesterday, Mr. President of the Generalitat had the opportunity to return to legality and to call elections. It is what the majority of the society of Catalonia asked for, but he didn't want to do it. So the government of Spain takes the measures necessary to recover to legality, and also has decided to call elections in Catalonia. We believe that it is very important to return their voice to Catalan citizens, to all of them, and to democratic conditions, so that they may decide their future, so that nobody can commit further illegalities in their name. It is the ballot box, the real ballot box, that has the law on its side, that has controls and guarantees that can give us the basis for the necessary recovery.
We're sacking the Catalonian government so we can restore democracy. Isn't that cute? From the Spanish president. Rage on, it's a Rayjoy. Rayjoy, it's a crazy feeling.
Further minute, that job.
There you go. So yeah, we're going to sack the Catalan government. We're going to declare them illegitimate. Why? Because we are all for democracy. It's very cute. From the Spanish government. What do you?
Yeah, well,
what's the bigger? I think what people are missing here. It's not just necessarily about freedom, right? It's about the wider implications in regards to the EU government. Because as far as I know, the Catalans, like the Catalonia region, if it becomes independent from Spain, will be kicked out of the EU, and that's not necessarily what they want.
Yeah, I think they want to stay in the EU. I think, for Catalonia, for the people that are in favour of it in the region, I think it's more about feelings than any other thing, like a bit of national pride. I have mixed feelings about this. In principle, yeah, I mean, if, obviously the Catalonia region, has had a long history, they're their own people. But I sense danger here, because, in all of Europe, there are little, ethnic groups, little regions, little enclaves where, people don't quite fit into X nation. I mean, let's take Germany.
Tamara said, all I heard was blah, 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 fuck you, Catalonia.
Take Germany, Bavaria. I mean, there are Bavarians that feel, you even tell someone, from Bavaria, oh, you're German. No, I'm Bavarian.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
To be fair, every part of Germany is like that. They all consider themselves to be, more German than German, so kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And
people from Berlin say that they're the only real Germans, and everyone else is pretending. Everyone else is faking.
And in my home country, in Poland as well, there are regions where, basically it's very difficult for me to have a conversation because they speak a different type of Polish, a different dialect. Yep. Yeah, and they've got their own little history, their own little, quirks, their own little differences, and maybe one day they would want to break free from Poland. Now the boys from Warsaw will.
When are you going to give us back the western part of Poland? When are you going to give it back to Germany, mate?
Yeah,
you're overdue. It belongs to us,
Yeah, when we get back to the western part of Ukraine and most of Belarus and
we have to give you the Ukraine so you could give us our land back. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, well,
a slice of Ukraine for that man.
See, fair exchange and robbery, Damo. But my problem with all this is one thing, that we can break down Europe into another 50 countries easily. We can just keep on breaking it down, break. And then we come to a point where, these countries are so small, they're so limited that you have to have big grand trade agreements, cooperation, where basically you're just a country in name, but nothing else. And this is a step closer to the United States of Europe. That's the way I think, like long term.
Okay.
Because, you know, if Catalonia breaks off, you know, there's talk in Italy of something happening in a region, you know, having some type of election, and it's just going to cascade, and it could. And I think it's different, for example, from the Ireland situation, yeah, because Ireland's already an established country that, you know, has the northern tip of the Irish island is, you know, occupied by the
Brits.
by the Brits, and they just want it back. That's a little bit different. You know, it's not like Catalonia is an existing country and they just, you know, they want that little, you know, tip there or something like that, or another few hundred square kilometers of land or something like that.
Well, see, that's not necessarily true though. Catalonia is an independent nation, but all parts of Spain are. This is the thing, like Spain is basically a fake country, if that makes sense. It's not a legitimate. It's not a legitimate country. It's a collection of smaller kingdoms, and that's why the Spanish anthem has literally no words. It's just music, because you couldn't write an anthem to say, "Oh, we're United Spain," because they're not. It's basically like a little imperial exercise, basically Spain. And the Basque people, you know, they're the same thing. Catalonia, they have their own language and everything, their own customs.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is destabilization, though, and this is something that's been brewing for a while.
And this flies in the face of, you know, the nation state, I guess.
Yeah.
Into the face of, you know, what a lot of nationalists believe, which is interesting. You know, it's all about sovereignty and integrity of borders.
But hang on, isn't there an argument for self-determination here? The Catalonians have voted; they want to be, you know, self-determinant. Why should anyone else stop them from doing so?
Well, you know, we could talk about vast chunks of Sydney, our hometown, Damo, and maybe say, you know, Stratfield, for example. I mean, that has a high population of, you know, Chinese and or Koreans, yeah. And what if they, you know, suddenly got out on the streets and said, "Hey, we want to break off from Australia"?
But they're not. That's the point. This has actually happened. This is what I'm talking about.
But all I'm saying is it's a slippery slope, isn't it?
Well, not necessarily. Like I said, like the Catalonians have been fighting for independence for hundreds of years.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's fair enough. But
they're not Spanish. They don't consider themselves Spanish.
Yeah, they don't consider themselves Spanish.
It's like
that's
Portugal.
Fine,
Portugal was the same deal. They had to fight for it. They fought for their independence. They won it. Yeah,
but a lot of shit happened. And how did the chips land? The chips landed that they now reside in a country called Spain. Yeah, and you know, if they want independence, well, okay, grab your AKs and fight for it. I don't know.
Yeah,
I guess that's what it comes down to.
Well, maybe it will. You know, this is off the back, of course, of a couple of elections, you know, recently in the EU ads, which I'm sure you're aware of. Austria, they've just elected a young conservative who's very anti-EU, and then followed up by the Czech Republic.
Yeah, the good old Czechs.
Those crazy Czechs, eh? The Slovaks must be sitting there now going, "This is why we weren't in partnership with them anymore." But, you know, they've elected, you know, people are dubbing him like the Czech version of Donald Trump. I don't know if you've heard that. Been thrown around. It's like a billionaire populist kind of guy.
Yeah, I saw him like sitting at a table with an AK on the table. I believe there was
really?
Some controversy. Yeah, there was some controversy that, you know, he had an AK on the table.
I like him already.
I mean, you know, great weapon choice.
Well, it's sturdy. It's sturdy. Those Russians, they know how to build them.
Yeah, they do. It's an ode to tradition, you know, no statues being, you know, pulled down in the Czech Republic.
Oh, there isn't a communist uprising in a third world country that doesn't have an AK-47 involved. They've definitely outsourced rebellion.
Quick fact, you know where the biggest Stalin statue was in Eastern Europe?
No, I don't know.
In the Czech Republic.
Is that right? Big supporters, were they, or?
Oh, they were, I guess, more eager to comply.
Oh, okay. Easier to bend over, you think?
Yeah, you know.
Okay. Seems those days are over now with the election of this chap, who's more than willing to take the sword to Merkel by the sounds of it. So, Wolf Perry says the AK sucks. AR-15, baby. Yeah, it's different eras though. Like the AK's cheap and sturdy. That's why people like it.
Well, there were stories from Iraq and Afghanistan of American soldiers ditching their weapons and
picking up AKs.
Picking up AKs, works in the sand, works in the wet, works under any type of conditions. So, yeah, I mean, ask your own troops, eh?
Yeah, well, it's not a bad little weapon. I think we could all agree it's not a bad little weapon. It's done its job. It's pretty famous. It's like the Volkswagen of military armaments. But just getting back to the EU, Catalonia destabilisation, Brexit now just like slowly, not really doing much, but it's there. I mean, it's still there. It's like it's a meatball, isn't it? Like it's just hanging out there, a matzo ball. Austria, Czech Republic, you've got the Polish government ads who, they're not specifically anti-EU, but they're now getting pressure put on them from Brussels to you got to take more refugees, and that rhetoric has been ramping up lately. I'm sure you've noticed. Same with Hungary. So the angst is building, and the EU government aren't doing themselves any favours by taking this kind of authoritarian bent to the citizens of other countries. They're making it harder for themselves.
Yeah, they thought that, they'll shower Eastern Europe with a bit of cash, and that they'll play nice. And who would have thought that Eastern European countries have opinions of their own?
Yeah. How dare you?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So it's difficult. And now, and in Western Europe, which is the power center of the EU. Now has
Germany basically.
Yeah, well, Germany and Brussels, they have a bit of a problem because the biggest success story in many ways of the EU has been Eastern Europe, and now that they really can't go too hard at Eastern Europe. That's
the tables have turned. They need Eastern Europe. If the Eastern Europeans all of a sudden decide, hey, you know what, we're not going to take orders from Brussels or from Berlin anymore. We're going to just go out on our own and do our own thing. Like, despite perhaps there's probably an economic, hurt to be felt there for the Eastern Europeans if they do go down that route. But but hang on, the political fallout for the European leadership, like in Brussels, would just be too much to recover from. Like, there's no coming back. If we say Catalonia goes, the Czech Republic and Austria, and they vote themselves out of the EU, like a la Brexit, then the project, the European project, is finished as we know it.
Yeah.
Like, you can't continue. Can't continue politically. It just won't have the support because everyone else will jump on the bandwagon.
News for the motherland. Damien, I'm sure you'll be very excited.
Okay.
In 2018, Poland will become a net contributor to the EU. How about that?
About fucking time. It's only been 30 years.
30 years. Joined in 2004, mate.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay. Jeez, mate. The bill's 14 years overdue. Don't get shirty. The check's in the mail, mate. I sent it last week, bro. Here, have an Adidas tracksuit. It'll make it all better for you.
Your squat's getting better.
Yeah. Cigarette hanging out of the mouth, vodka in one hand, dice in the other.
Big news. And another thing from Eastern Europe. The Turkish, President Erdogan. Yeah, Erdogan. That just looks like a 70s Iraqi porn star. Anyway, he...
Now we need to bring up a picture of Erdogan.
Anyway, he came to Poland and met Polish President Andrzej Duda.
Okay.
And Andrzej Duda
Gee,
said
you guys do deals with fucking Iran, you'll deal with Turkey, you'll deal with anyone, won't you?
Shit,
will take money off anyone.
There's North Korean workers building freeways in Poland. But don't tell anyone. Anyway,
there's Erdogan for you, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, Iraqi 1970s porn star. I can see it. Erdogan says, I'm no dictator. That could be the name of his porn film. The Dictator. I'm dictating. Yep, there you go. It's got the little mo. It's very serious.
Yeah, it's a pound chicken one. And he came to Poland, and Andrzej Duda said, "Yeah, we're very much in support of Turkey joining the EU."
Yeah, that's terrible.
That's terrible. I was like, what's happening here?
Surely, like, okay, so for people outside of Poland who don't necessarily know, Duda is, like, it's the Freedom Party, isn't it? But they're pretty, like, would you say pretty far right on the scale? Not far right, if you know what I mean, but
Well,
they're uber conservative.
Yeah, they're socially very conservative.
Economically, they're a bit populist.
Yeah, populist. That's a good way of putting it. Okay. But, you know, if they were a party here in Australia or in the United States, I mean, they'll be so far right, they'll be hitting you in the arse type thing. But
yeah, like they wanted to, didn't they ban abortions?
Yeah, well, they
made abortion illegal. So
yeah, they pretty much did. And
okay, so how's this decision? Like, how is them going out and like slapping Turkey on the back, saying, "Yeah, you can come join the club"? How's that gone down with the local Polish population? Like their support base, I don't imagine would be in favour of something like that.
I haven't. I just got an opinion on it that I think is just lip service, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, yeah, you can join the EU eventually, sometime, somewhere. Call me later. You know, like
don't call me, we'll call you.
Yeah.
1970s porn star.
But it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. Surprising.
Comment in the Periscope, how you like my dictator. Yeah, exactly. Fantastic. Oh, cool. What else do we want to talk about? Is there any clips you want us to play or anything like that? By the way, guys, thanks for joining us. We're just having it's a Saturday night here. We're just having a couple of beers, having a little chat. So,
yeah, you know, that's it.
Yeah, just
should we swing past Australia, or are we done with Europe? Or?
No, I don't care. We can go wherever you like. I don't think anyone particularly cares about Australian politics, to be honest.
Shit, we don't care.
We don't even care. Yeah. The thing with the Australian politics now is 5 of our politicians have been judged illegitimate because they're dual citizens. So it's a 116-year-old. Like, okay, we'll bring up that story. Tell us what you give us your thoughts on that situation, Ads, and I'll bring up a story to show the folks.
Well, anywhere around the world, I mean, this will be greeted with, great shock.
Yeah.
I mean, it just shows a certain level of unprofessionalism, like of total amateurish, kind of approach to politics.
Aussie lives matter is the comment from Samuel Steele. Thanks, Sam.
Yeah. Thank you, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
But in many ways, it's just an absolute joke. Yeah. I mean, here we have a government that has a 1-seat majority. So
they can't afford. They're on the cusp. Basically.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, if someone gets a cold, they're sent straight to the fucking hospital. They get the best doctors. I mean, if someone gets pneumonia, it's bloody like panic stations. Yeah.
Well, and it's actually the deputy prime minister who's one of the ones that's been told that he has to go.
I mean, it's
Barnaby
not a soldier.
Joyce. Our American friends will remember Barnaby Joyce because he's the one who said he was going to kill Johnny Depp's dogs because they didn't go through customs, if you remember. So he's a bit of a riot, Barnaby Joyce. I quite like him. I like his style.
I like him, and I just
got a soft spot for him.
And then, I mean, wouldn't you think that politicians? I mean, sure. I mean, know their citizens. Which country you're a citizen of.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that something that you know, Damo? I mean, you know your sex, you know your name, you know your address. I mean, what type of passports do you have? I mean, aren't these basics? These are people that are, arguing in Parliament, introducing legislation, voting, this and that, trying to make, Australia a better place, in inverted commas. And they don't even know what country they're citizens of.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just defies absolute belief. And then,
well, people say, "Oh, it's just a dumb law, so we should just change the law." But my argument to that is, no, fuck them. Like, even if it's conservatives, right? Because why? Like, if the average citizen violates a quote unquote dumb law that shouldn't even be a law anymore, then these are the exact same people who will throw the absolute fucking book at you. So now it's come around boomerang styles, It's like, no, these are the laws, so you've got to deal with it. You know what I mean? Like, if you can't abide by a 116-year-old law, which you should know full well exists because you're in Parliament, then I have no sympathy for you whatsoever. And it's, because people say, oh, you only care when the when the Greens and the lefties get kicked out, and you'll defend the Conservatives.
It's not
it's not at all. No, I couldn't care less. Get rid of
What do
him.
you think about Barnaby Joyce trying to seek re-election? I guess he's going to, you know, chop up the second passport that he has, and he's going to just go in for a re-election,
Yeah.
at a by-election.
Like, there's no
I think
confusion.
it's
Like, this guy's Australian as it comes, right? Like,
Yeah.
he's an Australian as it gets. And this is, like, some weird thing because one of his parents was born, like, one of his parents was a citizen of a different country. Therefore, he was granted at birth, like, a citizenship of that country. But he tried to, like, get rid of it or something when he was younger. Like, he didn't want it, and... You know, they said you can't get rid of it. Like you're just a citizen. That's like you can't renege this citizenship or something stupid like that. So, I mean, Malcolm Roberts, who's in, you know, he's the second from the right there in that picture. Malcolm Roberts, he's a senator for One Nation, which is like the, you know, the quote unquote far right party in our Senate. You know, he was born in India, like to British parents. So you know, he's now ineligible. Does he look Indian to you? Well, he's not Indian. You know what I mean? Like, so I get when people say, "Oh, it's a dumb law," but it's like too fucking bad, man. Like this is the rule.
I mean, when you run for a seat in the Australian Federal Parliament, you're making a choice. You know, I'm Australian 100%, and I don't have any divided loyalties or anything like that. I mean, for an average Joe, that's fair enough. You know, dual citizenships are. You know, everyone has them around the world. I mean, shit happens. I mean, that's just how it is. But hey, I'm a dual citizen, for example, but I'm not making decisions about this country.
No,
like I'm just you know, placing a vote.
Yeah, you're just a dude on the street. You're a man on the street.
That's it. I'm not voting for you know, legislation and stuff in the parliament. So I mean, just so instinctive and just so easy and simple, and it's just a bad reflection on the political class here in Australia.
The one in the middle here in this picture, that's the Green Senator, Larissa. What was her name? Is it Larissa Waters? I think it's Larissa.
Yes.
I've already forgotten who she is. How beautiful is that? Thank God.
How could you forget a woman that created history, Damien?
Exactly. You know exactly where I'm going. For our American viewers, this senator is like going to be remembered as the first senator to breastfeed in Parliament. And she was out there saying, like, this is a win for mothers everywhere. Like, I'm basically a hero because I'm breastfeeding in Parliament. And my argument was, well, if you're breastfeeding in the Senate, you're either a bad mother or a bad senator, or both. Because if you're breastfeeding, you can't be focused on being a senator. And if you're being a senator, then you can't be worried about breastfeeding. Do you know what I mean? So, like, that didn't go down well with the feminists, that comment. But I think it's pretty logical. Yeah. Let's play a little. It's a little Guardian video. Can we hear that?
Oh yeah, sure.
Barnaby Joyce, Nationals Deputy PM, eligible. No. What happens next? The Guardian. Look at his face there. Look what they put there. Matt Canavan got away with it.
Yeah, well, what was the story with that? I knew too.
Yeah, because his mother was... his mother is Italian, but she applied for his dual citizenship when he was a kid without his knowledge, and he never acted on it. You know, he never put in any paperwork or anything, so it was like kind of done. It's basically getting him a citizenship behind his back. So, you know, so he's allowed to carry on.
Fiona Nash.
Yeah, Nash is gone. Yep.
Jeez.
Yep. There's the breastfeeder who made history, Larissa Waters. So,
she made history twice because she
did
was the first one to.
Yeah.
No, she was there to breastfeed for the first time in the Senate, and then I believe the second time was while casting a vote.
Yes. Yeah.
And there were two separate occasions, if I remember correctly. And yeah, but the records have been taken away from her now, haven't they? Because, you know, she's illegitimate.
Well, what about Xenophon? He resigned his seat in the Senate, but it turns out he's eligible.
Yeah.
So that was a dick move by Nick.
It was.
But I think he's happy because isn't he going to state politics? He's from South Australia. For our American viewers, South Australia is probably one of the cuckiest states, probably behind Tasmania, which is pretty cucky, and Victoria, which is, we call it the People's Democratic Republic of Victoria, because it's like that's where all the socialist stuff comes from generally. So Like Safe Schools Coalition and shit. So that's all Victorian styles. They love it, mate. But yeah, that's that's what's happening in Australia. You cuckiest. Oh, Giovanni's joined us. Thanks for joining us, Gio. Just a little chat. Just having a little chat. World politics. What was the other story in the Australian stuff? We had the raids, the federal police raiding the trade unions, because the union movement has been in some dodgy deals by funding the Labor Party president. So the Labor Party leader, the Labor Party is like our centre-left party, so it's like our Democrats, but they're basically the political arm of the trade union movement here, if that makes sense. So, 50% of their votes have to be from the trade union movement, regardless of how, it's only, 15% of people in the workforce are actually in a union, but they have 50% control over the party. So, it's pretty anti.
Democracy, Damien.
Yay, democracy. Woo! And they've been caught sending money to a protest group called Get Up, which was actually funded in part by George Soros. So the federal police raided the headquarters in Sydney and Melbourne of the AWU, which is one of the biggest unions in this trade union movement.
The Australian Wankers Union.
The Australian Wankers Union. And of course, all the cries, one of my personal favourites was one of the Labor politicians coming out and saying, "This is just like Nazi Germany." And I was like, well, at that point, we know you're full of shit. Because once you bring up it's just like Nazi Germany, then we know you've got something to hide, right? So
yeah,
it's fantastic. Thanks for that, man. So yeah, I don't know. What do you make of? Are we kind of pissing in the wind here? Is our bias, our anti-union bias, just taking us too far, or is this actually? Do they have a point here? Is this actually a kind of political witch hunt, basically, against the unions, or is there smoke there? Is there?
Well, it depends who you ask. I mean, my personal belief is that the unions in Australia are one of the things that are holding this country back, and have been holding this country back for decades now.
Yep.
I mean, they're a bunch of thugs.
Yeah.
In my interactions that I've had with the unions, which is not much but significant, they're just absolute. They're holding this country back. It's all about corruption. They present this facade, that they're working for the, for workers' rights.
For the common man.
For the common man. And it's basically a bunch of, people preying on Australian workers and getting rich off it. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's all it is.
Yep. I learned when I was a teenager about the union movement ads. The people you get in there and you think it's all virtuous, and you think you're doing the right thing. When you're a young kid, you join the union, you want to look out for your co-workers and stuff. You know what I mean? And then you'll find out that the union bosses and the bosses of the company are fucking playing golf together on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Right. They do the deals. And then the union leader comes back to the workers and says, "Oh, I did the best thing for you. I got you a $2 pay rise or whatever," and then you find out all the rest of your conditions have been stripped because they've made an agreement on the 9th, while they're putting.
Yeah.
It's like, mate, I'll give you this, you give me that. We'll both look like heroes, and that's the end of it.
Give me something I can show the workers.
Exactly.
And it's all bullshit. I mean, workers' rights are important. I mean,
sure.
let's lay it down on the table that conditions are important. That this is. We like to think of, Western liberal democracies as, we're not slaving away here. We work to live, not live to work.
Sure.
I mean, and
not Greek styles, because nothing would get fucking done. But there's a happy medium there.
There's a happy medium there, and we can argue, squabble about what that is. But but this is not it. This is so far and away from it. I mean, it's basically organised crime.
Yep.
I mean, that's what it is.
No, it is. It is. Absolutely, it is. The unions don't pay any tax, right? Yeah. They live tax-free. They have credit cards. They drive around, they drink Dom Perignon over lobster dinners ads with the union dues of the members, who are earning fucking $15 an hour.
And we had a few scandals here a few years back of union officials, using the union credit cards to go see hookers.
To buy prostitutes. Right, prostitutes. Yeah. Yeah, the Health Services Union, Craig Thompson.
That's it.
That's the one.
You know, all those, low-paid nurses.
Yeah, the poor guys.
And the guys are all right. It's only the women that get paid low-paid, Damo.
Yeah.
And it's so... And I'm working so hard that I just need to go hire a hooker, like right now.
Yeah, right now.
Right now, on that money. And, while they're slaving away in a hospital in poor conditions, and living a horrible life. And, it's... And this is the type of bullshit that's bubbling to the surface all around the world.
Let's play Fitzgibbon, one of the Labor senators. Is he a senator? No, he's an MP, I think. Talking about how the raids are like the Nazis.
Asking any questions on energy, we were dealing with what is a national scandal, the political pursuit. This is like Nazi Germany, and the use of government resources to go on a political witch hunt.
Hold on, John Fitzgibbon, I'm going to pull you up there. Yeah. This is like Nazi Germany?
Well, this is the state moving against political opponents.
Hang on, that's a bit of an overreach, though.
This is the state moving against political opponents.
That has instigated action.
It's the season for overreach.
And instigated the police to do the search. It has nothing to do with the government job.
The use of the state apparatus to go after political opponents.
But okay, fair enough.
See, they just keep repeating. Like, the guy's saying, mate, this is an independent thing. It's got nothing to do with the government. And the independent body, investigating, ordered the police to go in. It's got nothing to do with the government. But they don't care, ads. He'll just keep saying the same fucking stupid lines over and over again. This is like Nazi Germany, and this is, they're trying to use the apparatus against political opponents, and, whatever facts you throw at them, it's just got nothing to, it just bounces off that wall of ignorance ads. It's just something that, I've come to...
Some of it sticks. I mean, that's awesome.
I think it used to. It's not very much anymore. Like, I just roll my eyes now. Like, I used to get into, page after page of battles in online forums and stuff, trying to talk sense to people. Now I'm just like, what a fucking waste of time. It's a complete waste of time. Like, why waste... You can't waste your time anymore trying to argue reality with people who are, determined to ignore it.
Yeah, it's like, that's what you just said is all right.
Yeah,
however...
Yeah. I feel differently. Right, well, tough shit, mate. There was a question there in the Periscope. Is Australia dictated by the Queen of England? No. We are a constitutional monarchy. So the Queen, although she is the official head of state of Australia, she has no direct power over us whatsoever. So,
well, yes and no. I mean...
Well, the Governor-General is like the Queen's representative in Australia.
She can sack the PM.
She can't. The Governor-General can.
Yeah, the Governor-General. Yeah, but he's got to get the okay from her.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah. Well, she's got to tick it off. She's going to sign it off.
Yeah.
But he can, you can just say, hey, listen, this is happening. I just need your signature.
Yeah, which,
Yeah.
It's only happened once before, hasn't it, with Gough Whitlam? So,
kicked
him out because he was trying to do deals with Iraqis and Saddam Hussein, and they couldn't get any money in the government, and because they were giving away all the free stuff. Gough Whitlam was, everyone's favourite socialist. Socialised healthcare, socialised the education system, and then wouldn't you know it, fuck me dead, ran out of money. It's like, oh well. So they were trying to get money from Saddam Hussein, like doing deals with, the Iraqi government to make some quick cash. It's just a dog's breakfast.
As you do.
As you do. And then everyone acts like it's the biggest travesty in the world that he was removed. It's like, what did you think was going to happen?
It takes me back to high school. I had this one teacher. I won't say who it is.
No, say out them. Shame, name and shame.
No, I don't even think I remember his name correctly, but he was like, that was the only time in Australia when people poured out into the streets.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was an outrage.
It was an outrage.
Yeah.
Well, of course, teachers are in favour of Gough Whitlam and socialism, because without it, they wouldn't have a fucking job, more than likely. So, I'm of the opinion that the education system now merely exists to provide members of the teachers' union with a job. I think the education system, as we know it, became null and void, obsolete the day DVDs were invented. Because you could put a lesson on a DVD and teach like 1 million students around the world There's no need to keep paying these people to push, Marxism into the soft young heads of prepubescent boys and girls, telling them that they're no longer boys and girls, but rather something in between, which nobody has any fucking idea what exactly.
Well, you can't define that type of thing. You pick, isn't it?
Isn't
that the last?
Yeah, I don't want to assume your gender or anything, broness, sister.
Is it time to talk about Harvey, Damo?
Harvey Weinstein? Yeah. Do you want to talk about pedophiles?
Well,
that's Tamara's. Tamara's my number one fan on like my little list in Periscope, and that's Tamara's favourite topic is Satanists and pedophiles.
Or Satanism.
Satanism and pedophilia.
But Harvey.
Yeah,
Harvey's important.
Harvey Weinstein.
Harvey Weinstein's important.
Do you know now that they're saying like Trump is basically the same as Harvey Weinstein?
Well, I think that he kind of skims that, that group, that elite group of people in Hollywood. I mean, you can't deny that, he would have seen things, that stuff happens in Hollywood, and that Trump would have at least observed some of these. I mean,
you probably can't get around in those circles unless he would. I don't know if he's observed it. I don't know if he was sitting there watching while Harvey was, groping women. But
he's definitely aware of that type of culture.
Well, you would have heard stories. Yeah. You get around in those circles, you hear stories, and this is my fundamental point of argument against like all these actresses now coming out trying to be heroes, like saying yes, I'm standing up against abuse and stuff. It's like, well, why didn't you fucking do it at the time? It's too late now. Like you had your chance. You had your chance to be a hero, and you didn't do it. You wanted the money instead.
Damien,
you took the money.
Let me break it down for you. That's exactly right. Let me break it down.
Cool.
The only people that are complaining now are either washed up actresses. I
don't know if Angelina Jolie is washed up. Maybe she's damaged.
Okay,
she's damaged.
Well, she's part. Let me finish. Either they're washed up or never made it, or they've made so much fucking money, but they're kind of over the hill. Like Angelina Jolie, great actress.
Yep.
Made a shitload of money. I don't know how many big box office smashes she's got to go. Put it this way. If she never makes a movie again, she's not going to be eating 2-minute noodles for dinner. True? Yeah. I mean, she and that's the big problem here. Yeah. They didn't say anything when their career was on the line.
Exactly.
And again, I'm not surprised. I mean, when I found out a few weeks ago that Harvey Weinstein and all these allegations started flying around, I'm like, what's the big secret here? Yeah. I mean, actresses have been giving movie heads hand jobs for parts for fucking decades. I mean, is that? I'm like, oh my god.
Well, there's a whole porno company that's like based on the idea of the casting couch.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yes. I mean, is this some great surprise? I mean, when I heard about it, I fell off my chair. I had to balance myself, Damien, because it was such a massive shock.
Someone brings up Ashley Judd Samuel Steele. Ashley Judd, big hypocrite. I've actually, funny you say that, I've got one preloaded here of Ashley Judd, just a 1-minute clip. She's opening up about her experience ads. You'll be pleased to know. Actress gives first interview since Harvey Weinstein allegations. And it's like she's opening up. And you were saying, when you said these actresses didn't say anything at the time, I remember Ashley Judd saying that, Trump in the White House is like basically she can feel Hitler in the streets of DC. Do you remember? So she's not afraid of opening up when she feels like it. So
opening up against the President of the United States. I mean, if you can open up against him, you can open up against anyone.
Exactly. If you're willing to take on the Hitler in the White House that is Donald Trump, and you're so brave with your little pink pussy hat on, why couldn't you say anything about this fat, disgusting demon? For the last 20 years. Because there's money to be made. Exactly. But you watch now, she's going to be the big hero. Let's play this clip.
First women to step forward about Harvey Weinstein, and this morning she sat down with Diane Sawyer to open up about her sickening encounter with the former movie mogul, while describing the relief she now feels after setting the secret she kept for 2 decades finally free.
See the tears? Oh yes, the tears adds. Oh, like I really have to focus my energy now, and I need to. This is so emotional. Like, this is so important. Like, these people do cry for a living. Don't forget that. So, just thought I'd throw that in there.
To be here, and I know that. So thank you.
I know that.
And I didn't expect that I would feel tearful, but it's been an absolutely tremendously moving 2.5 or 3 weeks.
Yes, it's tremendously moving 2.5, 3 weeks. The secret I kept for 20 years. I was afraid to speak out, Adam, but like I said, Academy Award goes to Samuel Steele in the comments. Very good.
I hoped I wouldn't pass him.
Who's that in the back? Is that?
I did, and he
Where, just in that picture there?
grabbed my
That's
hand.
Ben
Yeah.
Affleck,
It's
my
like
friend.
look on my face.
Is that?
abject.
That's Benny Boy.
Like,
Yep.
I can see it in my eyes.
Your elbow.
Yeah.
It seems
Like-
to be pushing him
Yeah.
back while you're holding his hand.
Your elbow, it seems to be pushing in the back while you're holding his hand. Yes, yes, it was a very traumatic picture.
It's very
It's very
gross.
It's very gross.
It's very gross.
Well,
I feel for that 28, 29-year-old woman.
29 years old. You weren't even a kid at the time. She's like, I feel for that 28, 29-year-old woman in that picture with Harvey Weinstein. It's like, you're a fucking adult at that point. Oh, if only Weinstein was president, then you could have said something. You know what I mean? Then you would have been brave enough. Good on you, Ash.
Random, random comment. She looks like she's on the gear, but no, well, but there's another aspect of this, that we can't minimize sexual assault.
No,
Damien.
we mustn't minimize sexual assault, except for the people that made jokes about Harvey Weinstein for the last 10 years in various award ceremonies and stuff. Not that they were minimizing sexual assault, right?
Yeah, well, and they knew. Of
course they knew.
That this guy was waltzing around, and it's only the tip of the iceberg. I mean, again, I was being a bit of an ass before, but yeah, this is behavior that happens probably all through Hollywood.
Yeah.
I mean, all of these. I mean, I'm just waiting for the next big director to get accused. I mean, that's what's going to happen.
Absolutely. Here's a clip. Hollywood's inside joke about Harvey Weinstein. Explosive allegations. Oh, no, this isn't what I want. I want the clip of all the jokes that the actors were making at the awards ceremonies, like the guy from Family Guy, what's his name? Seth MacFarlane ads?
Yeah, no, there was another clip of 30 Rock.
30 Rock, yes. I've pushed back. I've rejected Harvey Weinstein on no less than... Well, I was approached for sex with Harvey Weinstein on no less than 5 occasions, and, all but 2 of them I rejected him, kind of thing. Here we go.
Better than Meryl Streep. Who says that?
I don't know. Nobody. A lot of people.
Congratulations, you 5 ladies no longer have to pretend to be attracted to Harvey Weinstein.
Entourage featured a character named Harvey Weingard, portrayed as verbally abusive. I never watched Entourage. I wasn't a fan. Here we go. Here's the bit.
I'm not
30
afraid
Rock.
of anyone in show business. I turned down intercourse with Harvey Weinstein on no less than 3 occasions out of 5. Look, I get it. I know how former lovers can have a hold over you long after they're gone. In some ways, I'm still pinned under a passed-out Harvey Weinstein, and it's Thanksgiving.
Courtesy of the Washington Post. They're doing their best lately to regain some cred, aren't they? The Washington Post. Going hard on Harvey, cracking the big whip in the Clinton story. Washington Post. Democracy dies in darkness ads. Good on you, Washington Post. Is it too late for people like the Washington Post? I tend to think it's too late.
No, I think people have
Will
short
people
memories.
forgive? Will people forgive
Yeah,
them?
people are quite forgive. They're keen to forgive.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's all about whether or not that they adjust. I mean, that's the primary thing here, that they need to adjust. So
yeah, okay, that's fair enough. What else? Anything else we want to cover off, or do you reckon we'll just about do it? We've been on for a couple of hours.
Have we?
Yeah, time flies, doesn't it?
Yeah,
time flies. So Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's it then. Time to turn on the football.
Turn on the football. No worries. Washpo, owned by Jeff Bezos. Yes, it is. Samuel Steele. Absolutely.
It is. Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, thanks for joining us. Nice little quiet chat. We might do a podcast tomorrow. I'm not sure. Hopefully we can line up all of our ducks, but if not, I'm sure there's bits of this that we can chop up and turn into a podcast ad, so that might be the way to go. That might be the way to go. So, yeah. Excellent. All right, guys. Thanks again. It's been an absolute pleasure. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Hey, buddy. Saw your chick picking up the tab the other day. Are you just broke or a knucklehead? Broke? Okay, then dig this here, right?